Welcome to another episode of How Good Are X Weapons in Guild Wars 2. Today we're gonna take a look at Ranger. Ranger has crazy amounts of weapons and most of them are actually really good. And today I want to cover how good are they in specific builds, how good are they regarding power builds, regarding condi builds and hybrid builds, how they are scaling. And this video is, as always, for new players that want to understand how the specific weapons work. This video is also for veterans that just want to discuss with me how well those weapons work. Maybe they need some reworks, maybe they need some buffs, nerfs, whatever. And as always, thanks a lot to all my supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon that help me keep the light on. Thanks a lot, I really appreciate your help. And now, with that much out of the way, let's jump right in. So I guess let's start with the sword. It's the first one coming up here, so let's start with sword. Sword is really interesting. Sword got reworked a while ago, or multiple times already. So the auto attack is really nice. It's a power damage auto attack, gives some nice, has some cripple in there. But typically it's a just very nice, easy weapon to use. Has some nice mobility, leap finishers on both 2 and 3 skill. Has some nice damage in there, and it's a power weapon. It is clearly a power weapon, even though it has some conditions on the Serpent Strike. It's more like for the roleplay. It's not really a conditioned weapon in most builds. If you use it in a condi build, it's not for the damage at all, it's more for the mobility and utility, because it's also an evade here, it gives some nice vigor. And 2 leap finishers in a kit are crazy if you combine it with some combo fields, especially water fields can be really clutch, or smoke fields to actually get that in competitive modes. For the ambush skill, so if you play Untamed, you actually get access to your Unleashed Ambush, and this will now daze and do some crazy amounts of damage on a power build, will also heal you if you have the corresponding traits. And it's really, I would say, it's a nice damaging attack and it's very worth using on a sword. It's not really crazy in the uniqueness, but it's just some nice damage as well. Then let's go to hammer. Hammer is clearly a power weapon as well. It's very interesting. It was released with Untamed, and you can see that because it has actually 9 skills. Because depending if you are unleashed or your pet is unleashed, they actually have different skills. And they are all somewhat, they feel the same. They are very close together. So if the 2 skill in the first normal mode strikes enemies, inflict cripple and gain barrier for each target struck, in the unleashed mode you actually strike nearby enemies, inflict damage and deal increased damage to disabled or defined foes. So it's always like that the unleashed ones are more damage, and sometimes like this one removes boons, this one does some more damage, this one gives some nice boons in the blast finisher. Whereas the normal ones are actually, so to say, the setup skill, because they give you barrier, daze, and then the setup would be if you have an enemy targeted that is CC'd, you actually do more damage with it. So it's always like the first one is the setup, the second one is more the damage increase. And the 5 is actually some nice blast finisher, some nice jump, and the other ones are just very nice in the terms of damage. So overall the hammer is really fun. I think it's a really fun weapon. I think it's very strong as a power weapon. It's very bruisery weapon in competitive modes. It is not always the best option when it comes to power builds, but right now it's actually used in most power builds, even in PvE as a crazy strong soul beast or Untamed for power DPS. I think the design is really fun. I think it's really cool that you now can use all of those 9 skills actually on all elite specs on Ranger, not only on Untamed. And for the Unleashed Embers on the hammer, it's actually also quite good. It's a spin and it gives you some nice movement speed, it gives you stability on a weapon skill, and it gives some crazy amount of damage. It's a long cast time, but it's really fun to use. You feel like a warrior spinning around with your hammer. I like the design of hammer a lot. I think it's really fitting to Untamed as a bruiser, and especially with the old Fervent Force, it was some really nice utility, but now it doesn't exist anymore. Still, hammer is really fun. Then we have Longbow, really classic weapon. It has some very long range. The auto attack gives you just a lot of range, 1500 range, crazy long. It's a projectile, so it can be reflected, but it's also projectile finisher, 20% chance. It's quite nice. The 2 skill is just more arrows in a faster succession. It's also applying a lot of vulnerability. That's quite nice. Crazy good damage as well. That can be, of course, very useful to snipe enemies in competitive modes, but it's also useful to some extent if you play a Ranger with a ranged build. But sadly in PvE, Longbow is not really used because it's just worse than the melee weapons. Then you have some nice stealth access, you have a knockback, and you have some AoE on this as well, but other than that it's quite single target focused. I think Longbow needs a little bit of help in PvE. In competitive modes, I would say for the most part it's actually okay. But I think Longbow is very thematic, but it's sadly not used in PvE builds for the most part, and I think they should really rework it. The ambush of the Longbow is just some projectiles that you shoot out that are actually quite strong in competitive modes, but they nerfed it a bit down in World vs. World. The Shortbow is, so to say, the counterpart to Longbow in that it's also a ranged weapon, but the range is a little bit shorter and you are more condition focused. Whereas the Longbow is very power focused, this is very condition damage focused. You have some immobilize. It's always like if you hit enemies from the flank or behind, you get some extra conditions or extra stuff happening. So here it's an extra stun instead of a daze. Here it's more poison on the 3 skill, this is more bleeding, and this is just some nice evade and swiftness. I would say it's decent in terms of utility and what it can bring. It's more of a competitive weapon for Condis, I would say. It's really annoying to play on some kind of Condi Ranger builds in competitive modes right now. But in PvE, it's like you can use it, it's fun to use, I think it works. You can use it on some Condi builds, but most of the time it's not really that unique that you would use it in terms of Condi damage. Dagger is just better for a lot of builds, and I think both versions are fine. It's a ranged weapon for Condi. I think it's maybe can get a little bit of a buff, just make it a little bit more useful in PvE, but I feel like it's still used in some PvE Condi builds. Then we have X Mainhand. X Mainhand is interesting because it's clearly a power weapon from the scaling, but it also has some bleeding on the 3 skill, on the 2 skill. Both of them have bleeding. And the auto attack just deals some nice damage and bounces. The 2 and the 3 skill just deal crazy amounts of power damage, while they also apply bleeding, so it's a hybrid weapon for that reason. But the ambush skill on X is actually throwing multiple X's as nearby foes and inflicts conditions, so bleeding, vulnerability, immobilize. Especially the immobilize can be really nasty, but the power scaling is actually quite bad on that one. So overall, I would say it's a hybrid weapon that can be used in both builds, but for the most part, it's more used in a power build, I would say. In competitive modes, it's not as useful anymore because got a little bit power crap, but in PvE, it can still be used to some extent. Then you have X Offhand. It's way more useful than the X Mainhand actually, because you have a pull on the 4 skill. The 5 skill is insane. It does crazy amounts of damage on a power build. It's actually insane. It also inflicts vulnerability, reflects missiles, and is a world finisher, but roots you in place. So that's why it's not used in competitive modes at all, I would say, for the most part, because if you are rooted in place for 3 seconds, you are quite likely to be dead after that. In PvE, however, it's one of the best skills on Ranger. That's why Untamed and Soul Beast are so crazy in terms of power DPS. And the reflect can be also really clutch if you use it in the correct time. So overall, I think the X Offhand is actually way better than the X Mainhand, even though it only has 2 skills. And I think the utility of it is also crazy good. So really good weapon, but only power. Or if you play support, you can also use it on a druid for the pull or the reflect, but it's not for the damage then. Dagger Mainhand is clearly a Condi weapon. You have some nice leap finisher here and some quickness access, and more Condis here, and the auto attack gives also a lot of Condis. So overall, I would say Condi weapon, really melee focused, but really nice. Just that's why it's overshadowing Shortbow, because it's just more damage in the melee fight. And the ambush is actually a teleport. It teleports you on the boss or the target, and that can be really nice as well to just get to reposition yourself, and it does a lot of damage as well. I would say the Dagger Mainhand is really good in PvE for that matter, but can also be used in some Condi PvP builds, for example. I like the design a lot. I think it's really fun to use. Then you have Dagger Offhand. That's the opposite of X. The Mainhand overshadows the Offhand. The Offhand is quite weak. It gives some nice poison, but it's also an evade. That's the most important part here, actually. The 5 skill is also applying some nice bleeding, but that's it. And it's a protector, so it can be blocked or reflected. So overall, the Offhand Dagger is a little bit weaker than the Mainhand for sure. And I think it needs a little bit of help. Maybe a rework of the 5 skill, or maybe just some more uniqueness why you would take it over other offhands. It's just not as good, I would say. Then we have Greatsword. Greatsword is a very clear power weapon. It's sadly overshadowed by a lot of other weapons, so I think Greatsword is one of the worst weapons in PvE especially. However, in competitive modes it can be used on an Untamed, for example. It has some nice power scaling on all the weapons, especially the 2 skill creates a lot of damage and resets when you hit your 5 skill. It's also a nice daze, the 5 skill. The 4 skill is some nice block and can also be a knockback if you get someone to block. Short amount of evade in there, as well as the 3 skill also has some nice evade in there. And is a nice repositioning tool with 1000 range. Overall, the Greatsword is very good in terms of how it is useful, the kit, in competitive modes, but in PvE it's sadly not enough. The damage is too low and you don't really need evades and blocks for the most part. Yes, you can use it on demos, for example, to hand kite with the block, but yeah, that's very niche. The Unleash ambush of the Greatsword is actually quite fun. It's attack in an area around you, creating a spore under each enemy is struck, so it's actually boon removal and does some nice AoE damage. I think it's actually one of the most fun ones to use because it's actually very fitting to the Greatsword, but like I said, it's a little bit more like only in competitive modes. Then we have Mace. Mace is extremely strong. Came with Soto. It's a design more like a support weapon, but can also be used in a power build because it's insane how much utility it brings and just CC. So the 3 skill is some nice CC, gives protection, while you get a lot of those stacks of nature strength. While you have 5, you actually set your Mace skills, all of them, also the offhand one, it's really, really good. The blast finisher gives boons, it's really good. The 2 skill gives some nice healing as well. And regen, so really good as well. And then the auto attack gives some nice vigor on the auto attack, it's really, really good. And then it's, I would say, the Mace Mainhand is more of a support weapon, but the CC can also be used a lot. So I would say even in competitive modes, it's used in a power build, just for the blast finisher and the CC and the setup, but in PvE it's more used for PvE support build. For the Unleashed ambush, you actually get some nice healing and immobilize. I think it's also quite nice. The offhand mace is really interesting because it's very flexible where you can use it. It's just a lot of utility. It gives you barrier, it gives you Condi cleanse, it gives you stability. It's really, really good. The 5 skill is amazing, a lot of CC and damage. It's a power damage weapon, but because of the CC and the nice 4 skill, you actually can use it in every build, in a support build, in a Condi build, whatever. Just whenever you need a supportive offhand, it's the best choice here. And that's why Dagger is so weak, because this is just straight up better for the most part, even in a Condi build. And then we have Staff. Staff is interesting. It's mostly only run on a Druid because it's a very clear support weapon, a lot of healing, even in the auto attack, in the 2 skill. The 3 skill is a nice blast finisher, long-ranged attack, or not attack, more like a long-ranged leap. That is a blast finisher. It gives some nice healing, lead charge reduction if you hit an ally. You have a nice Condi remove and immobilize on the 4 skill, and a lot of projectile deny with the 5 skill. That also gives some nice water field, so if you use it with the ancestral grace, so the 3 skill, you get a nice combo finisher. Water healing, it's really good. So I would say it's clearly a support weapon, typically run only on Druid. However, you can play it on an Untamed heal as well. It's not that useful for the most part because it lacks stability uptime, but that the reason for that is this skill, Solar Brilliance. It creates a field that actually gives you crazy amount of healing to your allies and protection. It's really, really good. And on support Untamed, it heals actually quite a lot. It's the only reason why you can play heal Untamed is this one. It's really, really good. But like I said, we lack stability, that's why it's typically not that good compared to Druid, but still Staff, really cool weapon, very clear support weapon. Then we have Torch. Torch, in my opinion, is a little bit power crap. You can use it on some PvE Condi builds, but in competitive modes it's very weak. The 4 skill is just very, very weak. It's just one burning application and it can be reflected. It's not good. And the 5 skill is just a field. If the enemy walks out of it, it doesn't deal that much damage. If the enemy can stand in it, like a boss or something, you actually deal decent amount of damage with it. That's why you use it on some Condi builds in PvE. But like I said, it's a little bit power crapped and it should get some reworks or buffs in my opinion. Then you have Warhorn, Offhand. It's the opposite. It's really good. It got so many buffs. It's really, really good. 4 skill has some crazy amount of vulnerability and damage on a power build. You can even use it on a Condi build just for the vulnerability. And the 5 skill is crazy what it does. It does Fury, Might, Swiftness to your allies. It applies weakness to the enemy. It's a daze. It's a blast finisher. And this is just really, really crazy what it actually does all in one thing. It's really good. That's why it's used in support builds, on a power build, in a Condi build. You can use it wherever, just because of this skill. It's really, really good. Then we have Spear. Spear is interesting. It's a clear power weapon. It does a lot of power damage and has some nice stealth attacks on there. Every attack that you do here in Spear, while you are in stealth, actually is empowered. That's really interesting. Better than Thief for that, actually. The 5 skill gives some nice stealth as well. And can also, if you double tap it, so to say, because it 2 charges, you can actually get immobilize on the enemy. And then here, nice daze. Other than that, you will get just an evade. And this one gives some nice unblockable or unreflectable, for that matter, crazy damage. And the 2 skill is, again, just crazy damage. And the auto attack is interesting because it's not only a crazy good damage auto attack, but you can also use it from range. It has melee range and normal long range as a spear. So it depends on the range to the boss, how the attack actually looks and what it does. It's really cool. I like it a lot. When it comes to the Unleash attack, it's just some nice power damage and it's a world finisher. I think it's very useful in competitive modes, but it got nerfed a bit from the damage, so it's not that crazy anymore. But it's just nice damage. That's why you also can play Spear in a PvE power build. It's crazy power damage, and that's it. I think Spear is in a fine spot. It is useful on some power builds, but not all of them, and that's why how a weapon should be, in my opinion. Then your Spear underwater, just quickly go over it. Yeah, just some nice damage on there, some utility with CC and mobility with the 3 skill, and just some nice damage on the 2 skill. Overall, Spear underwater, not that special, but does its job as a power weapon. Harpoon Gun is again a Condi weapon, range Condi weapon, crazy range, 1500 range. It's like a Condi ranged Longbow, so to say, underwater. Does some nice fury here as well, and vulnerability, a lot of bleeding. There's some CC in there, and the 5 skill is also really weird. But overall, I think this is worse, the Harpoon Gun, than the Spear for sure. By the way, I won't cover the unleashed attacks underwater because it's who uses that. It's really weird. They are okay, to summarize. Then we have Celestial Avatar form. It's really interesting what you can do, of course. It's not, you can't stay in it, but it's really good. It does some nice 1200 range healing on the auto attack. The 2 skill is an instant cast attack. It's really interesting. Cleanses a lot of conditions in PvE, but it's also really worthwhile to use in competitive modes because you can use the 3 skill in it to blast to get actually more Condi cleanses. You have a daze here and a just nice healing. It's really, really good. Not only to heal, but also to interrupt enemies. Then the 4 skill is some nice water field, and you channel healing around you and give might. It's really good. And the 5 skill roots you in place, but it's giving you stability, and immobilize and slows the enemy can be really annoying to actually land in competitive modes, but even in PvE it's really good just for the CC. So Celestial Avatar is of course the reason why you can play through it as a support. So those were the weapons of Ranger. I really enjoy the general kit and the amount of weapons Ranger has access to. I really like that. I think some of them, especially some of the offhands, should get a rework. Especially I think Greatsword and Torch, I really think, and Dagger offhand should get a rework. Other than that, I really enjoy Ranger weapons. Let me know your takes in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. As always, thanks a lot to my supporters on YouTube, Twitch and Patreon. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.